Montana and Grosser Kern first. Two foundational legendary battleships both received buffs in this past update. Today, we're going to dive into the buffs, talk about how they are now performing with them, and talk about which one we think may or may not be better. But before we do that, if you like videos like this, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's just go ahead and dive on in. And let's just start out with Montana. And I think the thing we have to remember with both of these battleships is they were originally balanced around fighting tier 7 ships, right? That was their original balancing point. So with the introduction of tier 8, there needs to be a bit more oomph there in order to make a ship worth it. And well, these two kind of felt like they were getting left behind, especially now that we've had tier 8 in the mix for so long, and also we've gotten a lot more legendaries as of late. So all in all, these two ships definitely felt like they were being power crept. Montana, what did we change, or what did Wargaming change in her? Well, they did a couple of things. First off, they changed the survivability. They did this by buffing up the HP, which they absolutely need to do. That was a common buff spread between the both of these because, you know, when they were fighting tier 7s, they only needed a certain amount of health. But now that there are tier 8s in there, your legendaries shouldn't be getting as close as they were in HP to your tier 8s. Anyways, with Montana, the ship HP increased from 86,600 to 96,300. You can see that's what we have here. As far as our commander build goes, by the way, we are running Azure Lane Colorado for that fun DPM bursts that you can receive. I've been really enjoying Colorado. In fact, I got her up to 16.4 for this update just because, well, being able to put as many rounds downrange as possible during a match is just completely satisfying. The other thing they did to buff Montana, which you could say maybe she needed because she only has 16-inch guns at legendary tier, is they did buff the damage of them from 13,100 to 13,500. This is particularly potent on Montana because of all of the damage buffs and commander skills that you can stack on the American battleships, right? We are running Arthas. We are running Azure Lane, New Jersey. If you went with Azure Lane, New Jersey build, you could build into that massive AP stacking sort of build. The buff here is not only a buff to the base stats, but it is a buff overall to the play style of the players that have kind of optimized and min-maxed for this ship. So overall, I think it's a very effective buff. In addition to that, they've also increased the accuracy of the vessel overall by 2.5%, bringing its Sigma from a 1.85 up to a 1.9. I feel like at one point they may have decreased the Sigma, and now they're bringing it back. That's stuck in my head for some reason. But either way, they've not only made it more survivable, but buffed its damage in a way that a lot of the players are going to take advantage of. So that's Montana. What did they do to GK? Well, they only really gave it a survivability buff. Previously, it had 95,220 hit points. And, you know, you could, if you really wanted to, take out Schlieffen, and I feel like Schlieffen was a lot more fun. So not only did they, you know, give it a good chunk of additional hit points, bringing it up to 105,800, which with what we're running Hyde, brings us up to 110,000, 111,000 hit points. But they also shifted around a lot of the HP so that the superstructure gets saturated sooner. And that was the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem with German battleships to begin with. Flat out. Is just how dense and relatively lightly armored that superstructure is. What that means is you could end up going in and having your superstructure farmed for a ton of damage, right? If you're bow in on a German battleship, what was the strategy? It was, you know, just fire right above the guns, and you're gonna be able to farm away on him. And now they've reduced the ability to do it. And I will say, fighting and using the GK, it is a substantive amount more survivable than it was past this update. Previously, I would say GK was one of the worst, if not the worst battleship at the tier. And with this armor shift around, with this movement of HP points, it has become a lot more survivable, and one that can finally kind of stick around to the mid game and the late game if you're playing smart, and be able to use, of course, the secondaries. Because as we talked about earlier, my build is Hyde. He's a hybrid commander, but I'm built into the secondaries for a reason, and that's because, you know, secondaries go burr. They're fun. I will say I had some trouble with the secondaries in my matches. They did not seem to be particularly effective against the smaller vessels, especially destroyers, which is kind of where you really want them if you're close enough to the destroyer to spot them. But hey, this is where we are. The other thing that I want to talk about with the GK is its guns. I think Wargaming had an opportunity here to change around the ship, and I know this may have caused some consternation, but I think it would have been a great buff to see, especially given what GK already has. Now, if you're unaware, or if you forget, GK actually has the ability to equip 2 different sets of guns. A 406 set, i.e. 16-inch guns, and a 420 millimeter set. Only problem, there really isn't a difference between them practically. Like, yes, there are slight gameplay differences that have to do with reload time, but when we examine them based on stuff like overmatch, there is no gameplay benefit to equipping the 420s. They're just bigger for being bigger sake. And I think that's where Wargaming could have had an opportunity. I think it would have been great to see for them to basically play around with the fake numbers. I'm going to spoil something for you here. Grosse Kunst, not a real ship. They made it up. Yes, I'm sure it had designs or whatever, but how hard would it have been to say, you know what? Instead of the alternate guns being 420s, what happens if we made them 430s? And that's an important value, because 430 allows you to overmatch 30 millimeters of armor plating, something that has become more and more prevalent, especially as of late. The big cruisers, the Henris, the Venezias, the Zhaos have 30 millimeters of side plating. So instead of hiding 30 millimeters of overmatch potential behind a paywall for Ohio, or, I mean, yes, you have Yamato, but give it to one other ship, one other of the tech tree ships that isn't just Yamato. And I think the player base really would have enjoyed being able to have just one more option, because we are starting to sort of run out of legendary tier battleships, and so far the only ones that can really overmatch these new cruisers that are coming in are Ohio and Yamato. And I think giving a brawler the ability to do that kind of covers everything off. And you may be saying, well, Tommy, that's not fair. You know, why would you do that? Well, I think it would encourage the GKs to push in. It would encourage one more ship to be able to maybe make those risky plays of trying to chase down that cruiser, because it has the ability to overmatch, right? Especially because the rest of GK's whole shtick is about the brawl. It is about going out there and seeking that engagement. But, you know, that's just me. Now, if we were to look back and say, okay, we have these 2 new ships with these buffs, which one am I taking? Unfortunately, I think Montana still takes it. I think it's just a better overall, more rounded ship. But I will say hats off to the GK now. It has definitely gone from being what was my probably least favorite legendary battleship to being one that is respectable. I would almost put it mid-tier within the battleships now, just because the survivability buff is exactly what it needed. It is exactly what this ship needed, and it is no longer the runt of legendary tier. But what do y'all think? Let me know down in the comments below. Did you like this video? If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.